All right, we're going to start in like 3 minutes.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
as people join on, they can start giving us comments and we can check.
That's cool. How long you been doing this?
So over a year now. We started with Ted February of last year.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, man. That's the key, consistency, man.
Absolutely.
You get your followers knowing what to expect you.
Yep. All right. So hopefully we can get to. I did tease it in the Hampton alumni section. So hopefully
I saw that. Get
some of the Hamptonians in the mix.
They ain't got nowhere to go.
Exactly, right. They'll quarantine like the rest of the world.
Right, exactly.
All right. So we got another minute.
So Eric, when you have when this says on the screen live on Facebook, I think that is when we're live on Facebook.
Oh yeah, we're live right now.
So everything that we said for probably about the past about 3 minutes has been live on Facebook.
Yeah, past couple of minutes.
Yeah. I know when he went live. I saw when he went live.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the Hamptonians heard me say they ain't got nowhere to go. So
Right.
That was done purposely. Tune in, share it, tell everyone.
So Ted, that's why I was saying, hey, if people are watching us, they can be putting comments in and all that.
Okay. Yeah, I saw when he did it.
Yeah. All right. So we are about to do the thing. That's right.
Do it.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the weekly podcast where we discuss business, sports, politics, and whatever's on our mind. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs. I'm your procrastination prevention partner. I'm also the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. Joining me as always is the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Good evening, all.
All right. So we have a special guest, and productivity and overcoming procrastination, that's like my favorite thing to talk about, period. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. And we'll introduce our guest here shortly and find out, some things we can all do to become more productive during this pandemic. But Ted, I feel like I've been seeing and talking to you like every single day. We've had a lot going on.
Man, we've been live for just about everything.
Right.
I think I was making breakfast the other day and we went live. So we've been live on scrambling eggs and cheese. We've been live on everything. Yeah.
Like no, cool. Ted isn't frying some eggs and talking to us.
That's right. And put more cheese in that. Put more cheese in
it. Right. Yeah. No, but it's been busy. We did a special bonus episode last Tuesday of the 30-minute hour. We had Lane Kawoka. I'm going to talk more about him in a little bit. It kind of ties in some of the things he shared, ties in what we talked about today. We also did the 30-minute hour live on lockdown. That's our show every Wednesday at 6:00, where we have comedians and a DJ, and it's fun and entertainment. It's the lighter side of the lockdown. It was out of control. And would you say that's a good way to describe it? It was out of control, Ted?
Out of control.
Yes.
Good time, though. As much fun as you can have while quarantined. So it was a good time.
Absolutely. And then, Ted, you and I, we are a part of a special movement
That's right.
Off. It's the What Now movement. And that's where we get together and we share resources and best practices, and we collaborate and talk about, how do you overcome those crises? Because this, Ted, believe it or not, this isn't the last crisis we're ever going to see, right?
Yeah, not even the first crisis we've seen.
Right. Things have happened before, that we've had with the gas crunch, we've had the economic meltdown back in 2008. Now we've got Corona. Next, it'll be something else. So the real question isn't, what's going to happen. The question is, okay, what now?
Yeah.
Right. So your job situation has changed. What now? You have to change how you're doing business. What now? So we'll talk about that. We've got a Facebook page for the What Now movement. The Saturday, the 16th, we're doing a What Now Summit where we're having from 10 to 3. People can go to the page and register. And we've got people talking about how to become pandemic proof as a business owner, how to write your next book. You say you're bored, why not write a book? Hey, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how do you make business pivots? How do you secure your mental health and what practices? I mean, we're just a packed agenda. So hopefully people will join us coming up.
So see, the longer that we stay locked down, we're gonna just come up with more content, more going live type of solutions. So I'm telling you, we're not just sitting around. We're just gonna make the most of this time, and we're all gonna come out of this thing better. So we're excited about the What Now movement on Saturday. So hope you all can join us.
Absolutely. So we were talking briefly about The Last Dance, and today we're going to talk about productivity. But one of the things that I took from yesterday's episode was how Michael Jordan was getting his teammates to be more productive. He had some unique productivity methods.
Oh yeah, ask Steve Kerr, right? Yeah, so he definitely has some ways to mentally, get his folks to be productive and physically, if necessary. I think is what it sounded like from the show.
Yeah, I mean, they felt a sense of accountability for sure, because if you play with him, you had no other option. But he kept everybody accountable. So I mean, that's really the bottom line. So as you can see, that this is not your everyday podcast. And those of you that are watching us, feel free to type into the comment section. You can say hello. You can make comments. You can put questions in as we go. But you can also find us on our website, the30minutehour.net, where you can see the library of all the past shows. You can see videos that we've done from the past and see everything that we've got going on. So Ted, I've got something that's on my mind.
Please, Eric, share what's on your mind.
I know, Ted. You're on the edge of your seat, so I'll go ahead and tell you. I've got something on my mind. So in honor of our guest today and in honor of one of my favorite topics, we're going to talk about becoming more productive during a pandemic. That's right. Becoming more productive during a pandemic. So let's do some math. We're going to do some math, Ted. Let's see if you can figure this out. So 3 frogs, they're sitting on a log, right? So one decides to hop away. How many frogs are left?
So 3 frogs, and then one decided to hop away. Well, one hopped away. That means there's 2 frogs remaining.
Now, here's the answer. There's still 3 frogs. Let me explain to you why. Because the one, he only decided to jump.
Okay.
He didn't actually jump. He had made a decision. He didn't do anything. He just made a decision. So he failed to execute. So basically, he stayed stuck in the same place.
Okay.
He only decided in his mind. You know, he didn't start moving. So that's the key. So now, don't get me wrong, Ted. Deciding is a critical step in this whole process, but it's not the only step. You know. Okay. So here's the key. And here's the reason I told you that story. Here's the key to becoming more productive during a pandemic. And again, this is where you want to leave the kitchen and go to the living room, get off the treadmill, sit down. So the key to becoming more productive is that you must make the jump from deciding to doing. Okay. Right? You have to make the jump from deciding to doing. So for example, you know, some of our followers, or you may have decided to start a business. You've decided to start a podcast. You've decided to write a book. You've decided to lose weight. You created a vision board. You're meditating now. You're repeating affirmations over and over again. You're lighting candles. All those things are great decisions and great ideas. But here's the thing. Nothing will happen until you take action. Nothing will happen. And people think I don't like vision boards. I love vision boards, but you have to take action. Just sitting around thinking about it isn't enough. And so like our previous guest, Lane Kawoka, remember him from Tuesday? He had said something about this 10, 20, 70 ratio when it comes to personal development. And I was doing some research. It's actually, I saw something on the Center for Creative Leadership, and they talk about this. And I think if we can keep this ratio in mind, it'll help us to understand what it takes to really develop and to really get what you want. So 10% of your personal development comes from books and education, right? Educating yourself. 20% comes from your people, networks, mentors, and that's another 20%. But the 70%, and again, this is according to the Center for Creative Leadership, 70% comes from real world application. Getting out there and doing it. Getting out there and making mistakes. Taking the next step, moving forward. So the key, and I'll bring on our guest, is shifting the focus from deciding to doing can cause you to leapfrog your competition.
And that's what you want to do. You want to leapfrog your competition.
Exactly. Because people get stuck in decision mode. So if you're taking daily actions, that'll push you ahead of most people.
Oh yeah.
And
you'd be surprised at how many meetings that you can participate in where they don't really talk about action, right? They just talk, and the people will leave a meeting and say, man, that was a great meeting, man. I mean, it was awesome. That was an awesome meeting, man. Just great information, great dialogue. Then what's the next move? We don't know. We'll talk about that at the next meeting, but it was a great meeting.
Yeah, we don't know, but it was great.
That's right.
Yeah, and the funny thing, when you're in a training session or a meeting, everything seems achievable, right? It's all doable when you're sitting there in the classroom. But then when you get out into the real world, the challenges, if you're not intentional and focused, nothing happens.
Absolutely.
So very important. I just thought that was critical, especially in light of our guest today. I mean, he's a productivity expert. He can help you to move from deciding to doing. He's an authority on execution. He's a productivity expert. He's known as the get it done coach, the excuse killer, and the productive podcaster. I mean, I thought my little thing was, that he's got three.
I thought we were the productive podcasters, but I guess.
Oh, he's got it. I want to talk to him about this thing. So he shared his unique brand of productivity genius with companies like Metro Public Adjustment, the National Black Mastermind Group, and Primerica. He's also the author of several books, including Why Didn't You Get It Done? 50 Shades of Wealth, and a call to action, which he has used to help elevate the productivity of the high-level business people that he works with. He's got a strong media background, be it radio, print, and television, with a stint at CBS Sports and its affiliates. And he's hosted several radio shows and podcasts, including the Black CEO Morning Show, Lunch and Learn with Chris and Barrett, and Revenue Radio. He's one of the world-renowned black belt speakers. And he was dubbed as one of the original stage crushers, along with Delatoro McNeil. Now, he's committed to showing executives how to start and grow any business productively with any product, any service, by utilizing media with his creative insight and unique way of seeing the larger picture. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Hey, I left something out.
Oh boy.
He's a proud graduate of Hampton University.
Man. So I guess that's guest number 254 from Hampton University that we've had on here.
Okay, if you happen to be keeping score. All right. But please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour podcast, Dr. Barrett Matthews.
Hey, how you doing, Eric? How you doing, Chief? What's up? How y'all guys doing?
And we're good, man. Good to meet you.
Same here, man. Same here. I didn't know who you were introducing for a second there, but
what did you say? You said you were the stage crusher. Was that what you said?
Delatoro McNeil. Are y'all familiar with him?
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, Delatoro. He has an event called Crush the Stage, and where he coaches and trains speakers. Delatoro is a world-renowned speaker, yes. And he's one of the top award-winning Hall of Fame, all that. But he has an event called Crush the Stage, and I was in his original class as the stage crushers.
All right,
wow.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's definitely an honor and a privilege to have you on our show
honor
this week.
To be here, man.
Yeah. So you know, I've been watching you. I've seen you at conferences. I've seen you being the super coach and not these other things. So tell me about your journey. Did you always know that you'd be doing what you're doing now?
Heck no. No, as you mentioned, I'm a proud graduate of Hampton University, and at Hampton, I started out, and those at Hampton know what I mean when I say this. I started out as an architecture major, and yes, and then I went into mass media arts. Still had no intention of doing this. I wanted to work in television, and I did. I worked in DC at WUSA TV got to be an assistant director there. Moved up to New York, worked for CBS Sports. I was production assistant and research there. And then corporate America hit me right in the mouth. That's when they said, oh, we don't want you no more. Bam, you're fired. Now, it's funny because I had a teacher at Hampton tell me, you haven't worked in television until you've been fired. So that's how I took it. I said, okay, I've worked in television now. But it was hard for me to get another job. So I actually was introduced to the network marketing industry after that. Funny because the lady who recruited me, her daughters went to Hampton with me. So that's actually what gave me the credibility to join them. And what she taught me was the importance of showing up on time, the importance of being accountable, the importance of holding other people accountable, the importance of not giving excuses and not taking excuses from people. And it was ingrained in me. And so that everywhere I went, and of course, and Eric, I know you know this more than most, people think that you're just hard. People think, God, why don't you lighten up a little bit? But it's just who I am. And that translated into everything else I did. So after I left that company and started my own companies, I was still doing the same thing. I was working with a group of people one day, still in another network marketing company, as I mentioned it. And someone saw me and they said, man, you need to be some type of action or productivity coach or something. I still didn't know the first thing about doing it. And he said, yeah, you need to do that. You need to write a book. And I'd never written a book. Now, I'd always been good at writing. I was a media major. I've been good at writing, but I'd never written a book before. So I said to him, and he knows I always tell the story. I said, what do I need to do? He said, well, first just do an outline of like what chapters you want and how many chapters you want. So I saw him the very next day and I said, okay, I got those chapters done. And he started laughing at me. I'm like, why are you laughing? He said, because I just want to bet. Like, what do you mean you want to bet? He said, I just bet Keisha that you would have this done the very next day because that's just how you do things. And like I said, it's how I didn't think anything differently. That's just who I am. So then came the writing of the book. Well, I wrote the book in 6 days, and on the 7th day I rested. So, but I mean, and I figured if I'm going to write a book, because that was my book, why didn't you get it done? I figured if I'm going to write a book about being productive, I got to be productive in doing it. So I did it. I did it in 6 days, and that's just how I got into it, and the story of how it came to be. And I started just coaching and teaching on that subject of not procrastinating and being more productive. So that, because I deal with a lot of business people, and if you're going to be profitable, you got to be productive.
So Barrett, have you found that like most of the population isn't like that?
You're joking, right? Yeah, we're definitely a small percentage. Yeah, and answer your question, yeah, they're not like that. Like I said, they think of us as the weird ones. Why don't you lighten up? You're so hard. You take it easy on people. I'm like, I'm a nice guy. I'm not mean to people. I just expect you to do what you said you were going to do. What's wrong with that?
And like it's so refreshing for me, like to work with Ted and to work with like Dr. Sharon, and because we're all like that,
Right.
And it's very rare you get a group of people, and I'm like you coming out. I'm thinking that I'm normal, but I'm me. But it's not everybody's like that.
Nah, man, nah. Nope.
Yeah,
they're not.
Yeah.
A lot of people, again, they like to talk about stuff, right? But then that whole part of just like that moving part.
Yes.
You'll sit there and talk about how awesome the idea is, how great it is, and it's going to be so spectacular. We're going to change lives, and everything is going to move. And then it's like you're stuck, right?
Even the Bible talks.
I even find myself now in having like these virtual calls with people, and I'll just pull up a document because I want to start typing right then. So okay, so what are we going to do? How do we stop this from being just talking? And then by the time we come out, there's some actual actions that they come from. And then people, whenever they do that, wow, that's so spectacular. No, it's
kind of like what you said earlier, Ted. It's kind of like what you said earlier about it was a great meeting. Because I think what people are looking for in a meeting is to be able to say what they want to say. That makes it a great meeting to them. If they get to voice their opinion, but there are no action steps.
Oh yeah.
And I'm the main one that I've been to those great meetings, and I say, okay, hold on, before we go, what we got to do next?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to call another meeting just to have another meeting.
Right. Yeah.
Or the big thing, like I always ask, so what are your takeaways? What this is great, but what are you going to do? What are 3 things you're going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And another thing that I'll do from time to time is just in the beginning ask, okay, what would success be like? What are we expecting from this? Like for us to know this was a successful meeting, what did we do? Right? Which is similar, I guess, what you just said, right? But in a different way. But yeah.
That's good. I like that.
That's good. Absolutely.
Might have to use that.
So Barrett, knowing what you know now, if you could go back into a time machine to when you were at Hampton University as a sophomore, let's say, what advice would you give yourself based on what you know now?
I gotta keep this clean now. We had some fun at Hampton, but I would actually invest more, and don't rely so much on. And I hope I don't hurt anyone's feelings when I say this, but don't rely so much on the book knowledge.
Yeah.
Rely on, because there's some very brilliant people out there that aren't teaching you from a book.
Right.
They teach you from life experience. They teach you some things but see, keep in mind, I was brought up in a time where it was taught, the more school, the more education you have, the more successful you're going to be, the more money you'll make. Those days are gone. So it's like, you know, if I could go back now, I would, because I know a lot of people right now who are very successful who didn't even finish school.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that they're not intelligent. They're very intelligent. So that's one of the things that I would say, don't rely so much, not that it didn't help me, but don't rely so much on the book knowledge, and, you know, take the time, or the classroom knowledge, I should say, and take the time to learn from experience and from reading on your own and learning some things on your own. And of course, invest more.
Absolutely. But it's funny, like, you know, in school, I know I was always told, oh, you have to, GPA is everything.
Yep.
You know, when you get out, they're going to look at your GPA, and if it's not where it needs to be, you're not going to be able to get a good job. And
right.
That's how you're conditioned. But when you get out, you find out it's completely different.
It's completely different. It's funny, when I was at CBS, there was a gentleman, Bernardo, he was out of Atlanta. And, you know, his resume, gone to Morehouse College. He had worked for a local TV station in Atlanta. He was up there working with me side by side me at CBS. Come to find out later, he never even went to college.
Wow.
But he put it on the resume because that's what they wanted to see. You know, and he could still do the job just as good as anyone else. Well, they wanted to see that college thing on his resume. And it's so interesting that we had been, like you said, conditioned to that.
Yeah. And we don't recommend anyone do that, but
a disclaimer.
Right. We don't recommend anyone do that, but no, definitely. You know, some of my top employees over the years have been employees that, you know, didn't have a degree. They just needed an opportunity, and they worked even harder than some that had the accolades on a resume. And those individuals that, you know, that just, you know, didn't give that same level of effort because I guess they thought that just having those degrees and accolades was enough.
I've always contended that a college degree tells an employer that you can be trained. Because how many people do we know with a degree that aren't working close to the field that they went to school for?
Right.
So it just tells that you can be trained. That's all it tells them, because it doesn't mean that you can do that particular job.
No.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. So Barrett, so you're a productivity consultant. So describe, who is your ideal customer and how specifically do you help them?
Well, my ideal customer is usually that entrepreneur or an executive who wants to get to another level, another crowd, but doesn't know how to get to that group of people. May not even know where they are, but doesn't know how to get to them. So what I do is I have basically forged together my experience in working in productivity with my experience in working in the media. And I've put together a program to where I help them to create podcasts that actually can reach more people without having to spend money on ads and so forth and everything. And it's kind of a done for you type of program that I've put together. Because one thing I've learned, Eric, is that I've been teaching for years to get things done. And I realized people don't want to get things done. People want to have things done. So what I've created is a program where they can have things done for them. That way, all they got to do is focus on what their gift is and let me take care of the rest for them. So that's what I do.
Can you go back over that again? You said people don't really want to get things done. They want to have things. Can you explain that? Because I agree with you, but go ahead, explain that.
The best way to put it is a friend of mine, he coined a phrase that said the biggest commodity in the world is convenience. People would rather have something already done for them. And here's the example he used to use. He said, let's say you have a taste for macaroni and cheese. You go to the grocery store, you pick up the box of macaroni, you get the big thing of cheese, you get the milk, and you get ready to go to the front to pay, and then you see this big red box in the freezer. You're like, all I gotta do is stick that in the microwave and it's done. People would rather have things done than to get things done. So now you don't want to make the macaroni, it's already made. All you gotta do is just heat it up and it's good to go. And that's how and guess what? People will pay more for that. If you think about anything that you got in life, people pay more. I mean, I could go from here to Atlanta. I could drive right now and it would cost me probably less than it would to take an airline ticket. And not under COVID circumstances, but I can get there. It's more convenient for me to pay more money and get an airline ticket. People would rather have things done because now I don't have to drive. I can sit back, go to sleep if I want to.
Yeah.
It's just how we're geared that way. We want to have things done for us instead of doing it.
Now, awesome. So we're talking to Barrett Matthews, the productivity expert. Again, for those of you watching us, feel free to like and put your comments. Shout out to Rudy Jackson, who's left a comment. But again, we're here on the 30-minute hour podcast. So Barrett, so what are some simple steps that the entrepreneur can take if he or she wants to be more productive and if he actually wants to get more done? What are some simple things they can do?
Call yourself out on your own excuses, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing. Stop giving yourself excuses. You have to adopt the mentality that I don't make none and I don't take none. Then show up for yourself. Just show up. You will beat 90% of the people just by showing up. I mean, I know a lot of people have put this meme out here. It's a joke saying, oh, I was late getting to work in my living room because we're under quarantine. But it's the truth. If you know you need to get to work in your living room, get there on time. Get there early. Make sure that you're doing these things. And make sure that you have something already written down that you need to accomplish by the end of the day. See, here's the thing about productivity. If it's just 1% better than the day before, it's productivity. There's no measure on it. It just has to be better than the day before. So if you can do those things, because I'm not telling everybody to do leaps and bounds right now. You got to start somewhere. If you just take away the excuses, show up for yourself, and just improve just a little bit day by day, those are the steps I give you.
Now, that's great. And if nothing else, I think by doing what you said, you start to build momentum.
Exactly. Right? Precisely. That's it.
Yeah. Because now you're keeping the promises you made to yourself. You're starting to, I can do that. I said I'm going to do cardio. I did cardio. This is great.
Yeah.
I said I was going to read 10 pages. I read 10 pages. Oh, I'm on a roll now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you want to challenge yourself to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right. So now, you mentioned earlier you wrote a book in 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how many pages was this book?
I have it right here. This is the book. Why did you get it done? How many pages is this book? 205.
So you wrote a 205-page book in 6 days. You just can you talk us through your process? I know I talk to people all the time. They want to write a book, and they've been writing a book for 10 years.
It's funny you said that. I got to tell this story first. After I wrote the book, I was at a conference, Joy Fraser, Power Networking Conference, and someone was talking about me in my book. And this guy came up to me afterwards. He said, "Oh man, we need to work together." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Why?" He said, I've been working on this book on excuses for like 4 years now." Right. That was my response inside. And I said, why did it take you 4 years to do it? And then of course he started to give me excuses. But the thing is, I mean, it was really just focus. That's all it was. It really was it's nothing special. I remember I'd already done the outline of what I wanted each chapter. So then I just focused on each chapter, and I just did it like that. It wasn't that hard. There are 13 chapters in the book, and I just focused. That was all. I said every day that I wanted to do something because I was excited about doing it. I was excited about doing it, so I wanted to get it done, and I did. That's all. It wasn't anything special to me, at least. As you said, we're different though. So
yeah. So, and speaking of the book, so your latest book, which I happen to have the electronic version, the other version is coming. It's called A Call to Action, and you use that to elevate productivity. So what inspired you to write that?
Well, it was actually a gentleman by the name of Dr. Clyde Rivers. He heads an organization called I Change Nations, where they actually promote peace and civility all over the world, different countries all over the world. He's actually the ambassador to the Republic of Burundi, too. So I met with him last year at a conference, and I was surprised. I was there supporting other people and learning. It was a speakers conference. And then they called me up to receive an award for leadership. I was blindsided. So afterwards, I'm talking to him about this, And I'll be honest, I still didn't get the magnitude of it. He was like, you need to do a press release. I'm like, huh? And he was like, this is like an international award. Dignitaries and mayors and all over in Africa have gotten this award. And so then it kind of was getting bigger. So he came to DC and he and I sat down and talked. And he's like, I want to build an initiative around what you do. He said, and what I want you to do is I want you to write a book. I said, okay, I can do that. And he said, but I wanted you to write a book on execution. I said, okay. And he said, but I want you to make sure you're tied into the international business as well. I said, okay. And he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure we put this book in colleges in Africa. And now I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, and we're going to get you an honorary doctorate. I'm like, what? And he's like, you don't know who you're talking to, do you? I said, obviously not.
Right.
Because I finished the book recently, and I let him know it. And then he sent me a text with an image of an honorary doctorate in my name. Wow. Then 5 minutes later, he sent me another text with an image that he had named me a World Civility Ambassador with I Change Nations. It was humbling. Now keep in mind, this is while we're in the middle of the quarantine. I'm just walking around my block one day and these texts come through and I'm like, I had to stop walking. And I'm just like, whoa, I am humbled. But yeah, the book is really just about how to execute in an international business world. And like I said, I'm still kind of, blown away by what has come of it. And it's really just beginning. So I'm just honored by just, when you always appreciate it when your work is recognized and, when people think highly of you. I was blown away by that. I still am, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So can you share any of some highlights from the book for our listeners?
Sure. One of the things it talks about is like, if you're trying to get things done in another country, you got to take into consideration what their culture is. There's a story of a gentleman who, unfortunately, is in jail over there. He came from the U.S., went over to an African country as a speaker, and they asked him, what he's going to be bringing when he comes. He said, I'm going to make sure you guys get at least like $2,000 worth of value from what I bring, or $2,000 worth of value. Well, when he went over there, they had a packed house of people. They were expecting him to give everybody $2,000.
Oh boy!
Wow!
And
when he was not able to produce that, they put him in jail.
Wow!
And he's been there for over a year now. And so it's cultural things, and it's a whole thing with visas and what country, because he is from Kenya, but he is an American citizen. So he had two dual citizenship on that. So yeah, it was a situation where it got real messy, and he's still there. They said he's been beaten and so forth. I feel bad for the man, but things like that, you need to know and be prepared for if you're going to be going to another country to do business.
And so again, so the best way for someone to prepare themselves, like what steps, if I'm going overseas to do business, what steps should I take to make sure I'm as prepared as I can be?
The good thing about it in today is that there's always somebody that's been there before you. And find out from these people what their experiences were.
Yeah.
Like I told Dr. Rivers when he talked about bringing me over there, I said, I'm not going without you. So I'm not going without you, because you know the ins and outs. You know who to talk to, what you can say, what you can't say, what you can do, what you can't do. So I know I'm going with somebody who's been there before and who knows where to take me. I'm not going to be boo-boo the fool and just go over there and just, I'm in the motherland, I'm regulating. No, they don't know me. So I need to go over there with somebody who knows what they're talking about. And I recommend that for anybody. If you're going to go to, and not just Africa, I'm talking about any place, Asia, Europe, whatever. If you've never been to this place before and they don't know who you are, you're bringing something, you better know what you're going into. Because you better believe there's a lot of people that got to other countries and got a big surprise.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I mean, that's a unique niche slice of the pie that your book is speaking to. So no, I certainly should do very well. Yeah.
Because I mean, you think about it, a lot of us, we'd love to do business internationally. But it's not as glamorous as sometimes we make it to be in our head all the time.
Right.
It also sounds that you can even apply some of that if you're just trying to going into business or supporting some organizations here, within the U.S. Right, understanding that culture of that organization.
Yes.
You coming in, real, your tight shirt and tie and suit and everything, and then that organization is one that's casual.
Very,
right?
very much so.
Just that
one of my, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dr. Ruben West. Ruben is a speaker, trainer. Ruben's actually the reason I got affiliated with Dr. Rivers. But Ruben has said, he was I saw him speak one day last year, and he said, speaker, trainer, coach. Get those words out of your vocabulary if you're going overseas. They've heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
He said they've heard it before. He said you better come with a unique proposition when you go over there, because they've heard speaker, trainer, coach before. He said so you better come with something different that can help them, that can affect change. And if you can't do that, then stay home.
Wow.
All right, but no, Ted. I mean, I think that's a great point as far as even here, you need to be understanding it. And that's something, I would do speaking engagements. I would always just try to talk to people just to really get the lingo down and make sure I wasn't saying something that was taboo.
Well, and that's an excellent point, because you got to know your audience.
Right.
I've seen so many times where people have come with a canned speech that they want to do. They go to the audience, and that audience ain't there for that. Right. So now they're giving us this speech that they already, it's kind of like, you're playing football and your team is built to run and you're going against the strongest run defense. You better know how to throw the ball.
Right. You better call some audibles.
Right. You better know how to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or even a situation where someone is a comedian and they're going to a church function.
Oh,
they need to make sure that
even a better analogy,
the type of jokes that he or she may be delivering at that type of an activity.
Yeah, they won't be in there too long.
No. Richard Pryor probably would not have been able to.
No.
Church function.
No. So Barry, you're known as the productive podcaster. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I interview different podcasters who are successful. Because I say the productive podcaster, it's more of an alliteration than anything, but I interview, like I'm going to be interviewing you. Sometimes you just didn't know it yet. But I interview different podcasters who have successful podcasts to find out what makes their podcast successful. And because it could be that they monetize it. It could be that they know how to drive in listeners or viewers, so to speak. It could be that they make an impact in society with their podcast. It could be a number of different things. But I want to interview them to find out what makes them so. Now, another reason that I call it a productive podcaster, because very soon I will be running 3 podcasts simultaneously.
Wow.
I love the look on Ted's face just now.
Don't give Eric any ideas, because I was about podcasting zoomed out last week. So please don't give him any more ideas.
Yeah, do you see me writing over here?
Oh man.
Yeah, so that's where that came from.
Wow. So talk. I mean, how are you doing that? So 3 at the same time. How are you making that happen?
One of them, the productive podcast, the show, is one where I'm going to be interviewing different podcasters. I've already started interviewing people, so I got to get you on my schedule. Then I talked to Dr. Rivers about this award and so forth. He said, I want you to do a podcast on civility. Mm-hmm. Well, when the man who is the ambassador of Burundi and the head of an organization called I Change Nations, who just gave you a doctorate and a World Civility Ambassador recognition, asked you to do a podcast, you do a podcast. So, because here's the thing, he's going to get me the guest. The man knows dignitaries all over the world. That's easy so to do that. And then I just said, I have too much content already that is sitting there. And so I can repurpose that. And that's what I'm going to do, is repurpose that into another podcast.
Awesome. So what advice do you have for the entrepreneur that's watching us right now? They're thinking about starting a podcast. They've heard people say they should start a podcast, but they're on the fence about moving forward. What advice do you have for them?
Well, the best advice I have is to schedule a session with me and let's just talk about it. Because that's the best thing I would tell them to do. Let's talk about it, because a lot of people put doubt in their head about starting a podcast, and we need to flush the doubt out. That's the thing. And they form these distractions about, this, I can't do it because of this, I can't do it because of that. And stuff. And I always say, you got to doubt your doubts and distract your distractions. So let's have a talk. That's the best advice I have.
And so ultimately, like, as you're helping people, you help them to set up their own podcast. So they say, hey, Barrett, I want to start a podcast. I'm all yours. Help me out.
I would set it up. Basically, I make it so all they have to do is record themselves with their content, send it to me, we do the rest.
Okay.
So Eric, where was Barrett at last year when we just decided we were gonna start a podcast?
Oh God, y'all are funny.
We just jumped out there and just started.
But you did it though. That's the thing. You jumped out there.
Yeah. And then we figured some people would be interested in hearing what we got to say, even if you got to call them and text them and email them, and they're your family, and you're like, can you please just sign on and just listen to us for a while? And then after a while,
but Eric and Ted, but you guys jumped out and did it. That's the thing. A lot of people won't do that, so you did it. And see, the thing about it, that you learn as you go you improve on certain things. I always tell people, you go to get your driver's license, and after you have driver's ed, you got two hands on the wheel. Then all of a sudden, the more comfortable you get, that lean a little bit. You get there, and there's no telling when it happens, but you feel comfortable. And and kind of what Tim said, your audience. If you may not know them at first, but after a while, your audience. And then it comes, but it's not something that happens overnight. And I think that's what people are looking for. If they don't have a lot of people listening all at once, oh my God, it's a failure. No, it's not a failure.
But it's interesting. I mean, we'll listen to people on like sports talk radio, or watch these different shows on television with just groups of people just talking about whatever the subject matter is. And then Eric and I and Britton and others, we'd get together at the sports bar and just talk about whatever. And we felt like, hey, well, we feel like we have something to talk about. We think we know something about the subject, and and that's just kind of how it got started.
And that's a good. I have a friend in Atlanta. She kept saying that me and her husband ought to do that. I'm like, I can't. I was like, not another one. I can't do it.
No more.
Because we do a lot of arguing about sports too. So that's
Right. But it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, that whole 10, 20, 70.
Yeah.
You just have to get out and do application and feel uncomfortable, and eventually. I mean,
here's the great thing about what you guys are doing, and I'm going to commend you for this. You're just two friends talking, man. And I love it. I love it. You're just two friends talking. And I tell people this all the time. I said, you can do a podcast on anything. I was in Los Angeles a couple of months ago for the Podcast Movement Conference. And I realized then there are podcasts about everything. There is a man who and his mother, they have a podcast called Talking About Sex with My Mom.
Wow.
I'll leave that one alone.
I'm just saying, there is a podcast about everything.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, okay.
So based off of what your work with people, how long does it take from the time you start a podcast on average to really where you feel like you're getting traction and you're in a good place? What do you see as far as the time window? It
depends on the podcaster and the subject matter too, and the marketing, because we got to make sure we have different programs. Some of them we don't do the marketing. You do the marketing. Some of them we will help them with the marketing. But the thing is, if you're doing the marketing, it's good if you already have a following, so to speak. You know, if you don't, then you have to build it, and you can build it organically. You can build it through ads and so forth. But you have to build that following. And I always tell people, let's say you just started your podcast, and over a week, 10 people listen to your podcast. And you say, oh God, that's horrible. I only had 10 people. Well, let's put it this way. Eric, if someone asked you to come speak to a group of 10 people about your subject matter, would you turn that down? No, that's a good day.
Yeah.
So why would it be any different if 10 people are listening to your podcast? They are still listening to you give your content, which is what you want.
Yeah.
So I tell people, don't judge it based on like what Joe Rogan does or something like that, or those numbers that they have, Adam Carolla with those crazy numbers. Don't base it on that. They also have a machine behind them too.
Yeah.
So if you got a few people that are hearing your message, all you want to do is make sure that you engage those people and get them to share it with other people so that you can bring more people to hear your message. But it's not, it doesn't have to grow exponentially at a fast pace. It could take years before you get it to where you dreamt of it. But I guess the biggest factor I ask people about is, why are you doing the podcast? It's kind of like when I wrote my book, Why Didn't You Get It Done? The guy asked me, why are you writing the book? And I said, because I think I have a message that people need to hear to help them to be more productive. He said, good. As long as you didn't say you did it because you want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I say the same thing about podcasting. If you can make money doing them, but that shouldn't be your goal. Shouldn't be your number one goal, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it varies for each person as far as how fast they get amped up.
Excellent. So Barrett, how can our followers best connect with you?
They can text me. As a matter of fact, what I'm doing is actually, as I mentioned earlier, a free podcast consultation. If you're interested in doing a podcast, you can just text me, text the word podcast to 929-244-4323. That's 929-244-4323. Just text the word podcast and let's have a talk.
All right.
So Barrett, let me ask you a question. So, because I think I can just go back to where I was when we first came up with this whole idea. I really didn't know a whole lot about podcasting. I didn't really listen to podcasts.
Right.
I heard about podcasts. So for our viewers out there, listeners that don't really know about podcasts, what would make them consider doing a podcast?
If you have something to say and you want people to hear it outside of your circle, podcasting is not one of the best, but the best method to do that right now. You don't have to get on TV and try to get something. You don't have to get on terrestrial radio to try to do that. People are listening to podcasts all day long. And guess what? If you have something to sell, people that listen to podcasts usually make more money than those that don't. So they have an opportunity to buy your product or service. So that's some of the reasons I would say you want to get a podcast going. And you can reach people internationally.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the people that Eric has informed me that are in other parts of the world that have listened to our podcast, and this just kind of amazes me.
Yeah, I mean, when I used to be on with the Black CEO Morning Show, because it's nothing but an internet radio show, which is in turn a podcast. But when we did that, the first month that we were doing it, we used to see this one person in the comments who was listening to the show. It was Will Downing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. I was like, Will Downing's listening to us. This is so cool.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah, and you just never know, like you said, you never know who's listening. So you being the productivity guy, Ted and I, we always ask this question, but I really want to hear from you. So describe your typical day. So like, what time you wake up? Kind of what are your routines? What time do you shut it down at the end of the day? Talk us through that.
Typical. I don't do typical. I'm not one of those people that believes you got to get up before the sun comes up. I'm not that guy. I get up probably around 6:45, maybe 7. And first thing I take care of is, just making sure I pray, do some devotion and read the Bible, get up. Some days I'm working out, some days I'm not. Then I start actually, because I do some foreign exchange trading. I'll do that in the morning. And then I'll get to looking at my emails and stuff, and then get to work on whatever my first project is for the day. And my whole thing is to accomplish stuff. So what I do before I go to bed is I have an app on my phone called Alarmed, and it just lets me know what things I need to get done and when I should start on them. So I do that when it goes off, and I'll start doing that task. Then something else pops up, and I know I got to start doing that task. But I would say my days aren't typical because I'm not doing the same thing every day. I can't do the mundane, like I can't do it. So I'm usually doing something different. But as long as I am being productive in it, that's what matters to me. But I'm not that's just not me. I'm not one of those people that gets up at the crack of dawn. Because there's something I read a long time ago, and it said that people don't have the same productivity windows, meaning that a lot of people say, "Oh, I get more done at 4:30 in the morning." But some people may get something done at 1 in the afternoon. Some may get something more done at midnight. Some at 6 p.m. So everyone has their own different productivity window. And that's how I look at it. That's how I believe, because I know I'm not a 4:30 in the morning person. I'm not getting anything done there. So what I do is I just, I focus on when I'm going to get my stuff done. And I just, and then there's that whole thing about, I just don't like leaving stuff. I used to do real estate appraisal. And I remember I used to tell myself, okay, I got in from a long day. I'm going to work on this report first thing in the morning, but I'm going to get it started right now. I get it started and I couldn't stop.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that, as far as, not necessarily having to be a morning person, because that's one of the things that motivated me to write my book. And because all the other books said the same thing, right? Oh yeah, you got to get up early. The early bird gets the worm. Don't check your email until noon, and And one of the things I talk about is that, everybody has kind of if you're that night owl, try to schedule your high priority activities during that time. Right. You don't have to wake up if that's I'm a 4 a.m. guy, but you don't have to be that to be productive.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I don't think there's a cookie cutter. See, the object of the game is to just complete the task. So it doesn't matter when you do it or how you go about doing it. I mean, we've been using a lot of sports metaphors. There's a lot of different ways to win the championship for your team. And because you usually find that if both teams play the same way, they're usually not even going to get to play each other usually. There's always something different about one team to the other. So, but they still got there.
Right.
So, and that's the whole thing. You have to find out what it is about you. You have to know you is the main thing. You got to know when you work. Don't try to do it on what someone else does, because they're not you.
Right. Yep. Great advice. All right. Well, this has been an awesome show. So we're gonna go around the horn. This is where we give the people that word of guidance or that final thought to remember us by. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Barrett. What is your final thought for the people?
Okay, understand that inaction is an action. So ask yourself this question: what action will you take today that's going to be what you remember a year from now?
What action will you take today that you remember a year from now? That's awesome.
Yeah, because something's going to shape what happens a year from now.
Yep.
And it's going to be an action you take today or something that you don't do today.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Ted, you always have to follow.
Yeah, you always set me up. You always set me right after the guest, and they say something real profound from their book or something. But I guess for me, the biggest thing is just in this whole season that we're all in, now, right, with the whole pandemic, and just trying to, you know, determine, how do you want to really come out of this? Like, how do you become better coming out of this, right? Whether it's, as you said, Eric, whether I'm a, lose some weight. I don't think that's happening because I've been eating a bunch of crazy stuff, but that may not happen. Is it, getting a book written? Is it, clean, you've been talking about, cleaning out, your basement or whatever, getting those things actually done and executing those things, because it would be a terrible thing to have all these things that you've been saying I didn't have time to get done, and now you've had 3 months time to get stuff done, and the only thing that you accomplished was putting on some pounds that didn't really accomplish anything, right? And so now, just in thinking about this and some of the things that you've said today, and just kind of the story that you gave earlier, Eric, of just, just jumping from deciding to doing, right? Actually getting these things done. And I think the whole theme in this whole conversation has been around tools and techniques that are focused on the end result. And so, yeah, I think this was great. I feel much more productive, Barrett, after this podcast.
All right now.
Yeah, that again, I feel bad having to go after both Barrett and Ted. I mean, it's
oh Lord.
It's your show now.
See the one good thing about Eric, about you letting me go after Barrett, is then I can kind of go through some of it, because usually the guest is not going to say, like, in their final thoughts, something that they said earlier. They give you something different. So that means I can go back to the final, to all the thoughts throughout. I'm taking notes and I can pick through it. So no matter what you're thinking about, it's a good chance. If it was something that was on that list, I may take it.
Right. Yeah. I ain't mad at you.
There you go. So my closing thought is just on the importance of starting. There's so many reasons that we're frozen in decision mode, and because sometimes the task looks intimidating, right? But it's so important that we just start. And what's the quote? You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Mm-hmm. You just have to start. And a lot of time when you start, it's a lot easier than you think. You're like, oh man, I can do this. And then before you know it, you're done. Right. But you won't get to that point where you're done unless you start.
That's true.
Yeah.
So whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whatever you're dragging your feet on, if you're watching this, my best advice is do something to start. It doesn't have to be a big step. It could be a small step. It could be calling someone. It could be calling someone that helps people to start podcasts. That counts.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. The key is to start. Focus on the start.
I love it.
All right. Man, this has been a productive episode.
We accomplished some stuff, right?
Right. I feel accomplished now. I mean, we're going to have Barrett on, and yeah, this has been fantastic. So, yeah, what an amazing episode. I want to thank our guest, Barrett. Again, one more time, can you give your text information? Because I know people,
sure,
they want to get in contact with you.
Sure. Text the word podcast to 929-244-4323. 929-244-4323. All
right. Good stuff. And I see we had another comment from Kim Leonard. Shout out to you. She said, this is wonderful advice. I'm sure she was, I'm not sure what part of the show she was referencing there, but we definitely appreciate your comment.
Probably whatever you said.
No, I'm sure it was one of Barrett's many nuggets of wisdom there.
One thing I'd like to say, I know throughout you all have been giving your shout outs to your fellow Hamptonians. Well, I know Kim Leonard is a fellow Norfolk State Spartan. So
all right. Down in Virginia.
Appreciate the Spartan signing in tonight.
All right.
All right.
I take it you went to Norfolk State.
Absolutely. Behold.
When did you come out?
Now, see, I don't want to tell everybody my age. I know everybody's thinking I'm in my early 30s, but no, in 91.
91? You're still younger than me. Now I got some people that came out there, but they but I mean, you probably know them. I know you know Jesse Stewart.
Oh yeah. No,
Everybody
well,
knows
as a fraternity brother, man. You know, it sounded like you were about to say. I know some people that they may still be there. I was gonna say.
No, Jesse and I grew up together. Jesse and I grew up
Yeah.
together. That's why we grew up.
Oh yeah, great guy. No Jesse Webb.
All right. So again, that's our show for this week. Don't forget to go to the 30minutehour.net and you can catch up on all our old episodes. Don't forget to catch us on Wednesday at 6:00 for the 30-minute hour live on lockdown. Again, it's the lighter side of the lockdown and the lighter side of social distancing. So it's right here, 30-minute hour live on lockdown. And lastly, make sure you register for the What Now movement. We've got the summit that's taking place this coming Saturday from 10 to 3. It's a lot going on, but it's great stuff. Till next time, have a great one.